So, real quick, I literally just got out of the shower, right? Now, mind you, I'm standing on top of my bed. Um, I do have my laptop on the bed. Um, Interesting enough how I started recording, all of a sudden this starts buffering, but it's also plugged in. It's also plugged into the power grid of the building. So, those of you who know about electronic harassment, they gain control of the power in a building, because they have people employed, with whatever, if it's the building company or if it's, housing, whatever. So now look at these readings, right? This, like, usually you don't get certain readings like this unless you're close to a device, right? But look at this. I'm standing on top of my bed. And then look at how it climbs up. Now notice the changes, right? Notice the changes in the reading of the radiation, almost as if like it's moving. You see how it dropped like that, but yet if I follow it, it'll stay high and then it'll move again. Now, keep in mind, I just came out the shower. And before I went in the shower, I heard a loud thud above, my head. And then as soon as I came out of the shower and came into the bedroom, I heard another thud above my head. Now, I don't know what the Department of Defense think that they're doing by basically contracting out these weapons, or probably allowing someone to secretly sell these weapons to civilians. But it's in a sense, you got to think of it like this. You do realize you gave people with no moral code, at all, no code of ethics. You gave them a super weapon that they eventually will use against politicians. They'll use against, law enforcement. They'll use it against other military personnel. I mean, honestly, like, you honestly really believe by trying to give these weapons out to people who, will basically kill a single mother with two children, all because, you know, she had a bad date experience with this guy, and the guy wants to keep going out with her, but but she doesn't want to. So what does he do? He basically uses this weaponry to attack her and her children, or a guy who basically stopped a woman from, well, basically helped save a woman from getting beat to death by her abusive boyfriend, and then the abusive boyfriend just happened to have ties to somebody who has, you know scalar wave weapons or scalar energy weapons, and they can basically destroy the person who was just trying to save a life. It's like we're basically, and then look, now as I'm saying that, there's a frequency that just hit me on the right side of my neck. So it's like, when you think about it like that, it's like we're feeding everybody who's wrong with not just this country but the entire world, because this secret weaponization of energy is it's everywhere. It's global. when you talk about the New World Order and you think about what the World Economic Forum, you know, they all talk about how, they want to get rid of poverty, they want to get rid of hunger, they want to get, but you know what? I haven't really heard many things about what they plan to do in order to eradicate these things. And then when you look around and you see, if you're I'm gonna start calling it EP, I mean ETIs, empowered targeted individuals, because I believe that because we because I feel like we are empowered by a energy that is not of this world. We are empowered by energy that has a moral, a more like a moral grounding, or like some type of moral um aptitude. I don't even know what to call it, but it's just like there's a righteousness that empowers us. There's a being, like call it God if you will, that basically told us from our and fed our spirit and our mind and our body and said, do what's right. And then when we do what's right, it seems like people of the world, those who cling to materialism and fascism and well, racism, and you know greed and lust and violence and all those other like harmful things to humanity as a whole. you know it's like we felt empowered to do the right thing, and for doing that we are being targeted as individuals. Because remember, they don't it's not like they're targeting groups of people at a time. They're targeting the individual. They isolate the individual. They basically um spread lies, slander, you know basically, they use people that they have probably manipulated, or found some way to manipulate someone else in order to get them into like very um prophylactic prolific jobs, like somewhere in the nursing, in the medical industry, or the law enforcement, where they can gain access to resources. And next thing this person who is actually doing the right thing in this world, in this strange world that we live in, you know now they have their medical information being shared without their consent. They have like someone writing up falsified police reports on them. There's people who are working among insurance companies, and they're basically creating fake insurance policies, against well they're creating fake insurance policies for the empowered targeted individuals, so then when they die someone else can get paid, from off of someone else's death. Then there's then there's the idea that, like, you know they'll have people working in child protective services. So if the ETI is someone who just happened to do the right thing and they have children, they'll try to find so many ways to harass them, and then basically try to take their children away from them. So then what? So then they can traffic the children, you know. Um and then when you learn about the manipulations of the mind, the implantation of thoughts. Because remember, we're all, like, every single person, whether they realize it or not, is connected to a cloud server somewhere on the internet, and it's all being done by well, first and foremost, the entire globe is encased in like a digital dome, and every single person is basically connected to what I would call like a, it's like a near infrared light that can transmit data. It can transmit data, well, first it would, from a remote location, it would be coded first. But then when they send that when they send that code as a message or a transmission, it gets converted into a form that the brain can actually decode it. The brain will receive it, decode it, and then it will resonate and then try to um basically create the image that they want you to see, or you'll have that thought that they want you to have, or you can, or you'll perceive the sound that they want you to hear. So then, like, if you were if you were in a room, you could be sitting in a room with someone, and then all of a sudden you hear like the voice of the person say something that's in the room with you, and you ask them, did you say something? And they say, no, I didn't say anything. You like, for real? They be like, yeah. And you just like, I could have sworn you said something. And it's like, then they have like the mental health or the psychological psychology industry and all that, fake diagnosing people with schizophrenia, completely, ignoring the fact that technology is far, far, far more advanced than what we are receiving, what we are buying in, like, these tech stores that's out now. Like, the technology that's being used is the CIA knows about it because the CIA has been perfecting their use of the technology for decades. How does average, citizens get a hold of this technology? Who knows? Maybe someone on the inside of the CIA is basically selling this technology out to people and of the public. Or maybe the CIA and the NSA isn't as trustworthy for the country as we all thought it was. So whatever the case may be, um yeah, there's like I mean, I quite honestly could, I have already made my peace with the world, and I've already made my peace with, my own life. So no matter what is happening, no matter what happens, and no matter what is going to happen, I believe that everything will work out for my good, and everything will work out for your good, and everything will work out for the good of all those who are being tormented by this. Now, I'm going to repeat this once more. Everything will work out for my good, your good, and everyone else's good, for those, who are being tormented by us, and secretly and covertly, by this growing entity of an enemy, because they basically, it's basically a cult. It's basically a cult. It's like, they're calling themselves a secret society, but what exactly is a secret society? It's a cult. And then, if you when you look at the intentions and what they're actually dealing with, it's rooted in Satanism. It's rooted in Satanism. It definitely, goes against God's will for humanity. And you know what? For the most part, because we are ETIs, because we are being empowered by God to do the right thing and to, continue to not be succumbed by the world, it is already said and done that as long as we do what's right, we are already blessed with eternal life. All we have to do is just continue doing what we're doing and do our best not to actually, not to be succumbed by, everything that's happening to us and everything that's wrong with the world. Because I mean, if you're paying attention to, some news, not all the news, but some news, especially, things going on in our galaxy, or, if you're paying attention to, all these different viruses going out, the sinkholes and the storms, all of this stuff is mentioned in the book of Revelation. And I kid you not, I strongly believe um that there's about to be a cataclysmic shift for all life on this planet. And you know what? Remember, you can't receive eternal life in your flesh body. So I wouldn't even really, be so, caught up and focused on, oh, how long I'm going to live. Eternal life can't be had in these bodies. That's why with these, techno pagans, they're basically creating all this new technology where you can upload your consciousness into the internet, or you can upload your consciousness into an artificial intelligence that would, quote unquote, never die. Or not an artificial intelligence, but into a robot that will, quote unquote, never die. So it's like they're being misled by, Baphomet and, Lucifer and whatever other fallen angels and the beast and whatever. They're being misled to basically wean people away from God and his commandments. Well, God's commandments, and telling them that if you really want to be able to survive in this world, you need to do what we tell you to do. That's slavery. That's slavery. And that's slavery, and that's a disrespect to God. That is a blatant disrespect to God. So you know what? I am going to repeat it again. As empowered, targeted individuals, we, for us, all things are going to work out for our good, even in death itself. Remember, you're only leaving your physical body. Do not ever take your own life, because that's basically making it easier for the gang stalkers. Don't think about taking your life. Don't even attempt to take your life. Um Cause you know what, and then I'm gonna say this, coming from someone who's actually attempted this. This is way before my targeting. This is, like probably the earliest I ever tried it was like maybe 7, 8 years old, and that was after I was like sexually assaulted by a grown man. Then there were two times, like once in college, and then there was another time. Um, I forgot when, but you know, I have been through storms, and I have came out, and for whatever reason, I have always maintained my peace. I realize the world is something wrong with the world. It's not anything wrong with us. It's something wrong with the world. And me, I have strived to be one of the most friendliest, kindest, gentlest people, you know, on this planet, because, is so much that's wrong with the world. It's so many people that's wrong in this world. And it's like, you know, we we're trying our best to not be like everyone else. But everyone else hates the fact that there are people like us, because we make them look bad. And it's like when we actually mention or talk about people who look bad, act bad, and are bad. I mean, if it looks like a duck and quack like a duck, it must be a duck, you know, then it's like, I mean, think about it like this. It's like they are basically enticing people using either threats or some type of monetary reward or gift to basically do harm to other people who never was a threat to anyone else. It's like saying, well, if we get everybody to do bad, then it won't make us look bad. And then you know what the sad part is? People who was never really doing bad, they just go along with it, and they end up doing bad too. And now it's a whole, see, and then now all of a sudden it starts. They must be up to something serious now. So I mean, like, I kid you not. I've already went through the process of thinking about, people that I truly love in my life, being taken by these people, because they've been using this technology to kill people during the pandemic. I strongly believe it's not necessarily the virus itself that's killing it, because when you look at the symptoms of the symptoms of people who were, quote unquote, dying from the virus, and then you compare it to the symptoms of electromagnetic radiation, it's damn near the same thing. It's damn near the same thing. And you know what? A lot of it, and then if you look at the Havana syndrome victims and compare their experiences with a lot of people who are mysteriously dying, and then the coronaries stories, the autopsies don't seem to, they don't sound right. Like, look at Bob Saget's death for one. I don't know much about the man personally. Now, I've heard some things, but hearing things and actually knowing for a fact, I mean, that's whatever. But Bob Saget, they said that I think they said that he died from what looked like was some type of brain injury, like as if he fell from and hit his head on something really hard, but didn't realize that maybe he, like he had a brain aneurysm or something like that. And I'm just like, you know what, I think I remember looking up what the autopsy, and I don't think they seen anything that looked like a contusion, like a bruise or anything on the outside of the head. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, was Bob Saget killed by by someone who had this technology too? Because like when they're basically when they hit me, in my head with the magnetic energy force, it literally feels like, and I can recall this like it was yesterday. It literally feels like if you just took off a piece of my skull, right? And then you took like, um let's say you took like a bat, and instead of like doing like a full swing and a hit to the brain, you just basically take the bat and you just poke it real hard. You know, that's what it feels like. And then at times, you know, remember, we're dealing with electromagnetic energy, like these positively charged particles, right? When they're beaming this light down, this energy down on us, um it has a tendency to make you feel heavier. It has a tendency to make you feel almost as if like there's been times where I was just walking, and then all of a sudden I felt like a dip, like in my step. And like when I say a dip, it almost feels like gravity just shifted in my entire body for that one step. And there's been times where, like, I'm standing straight up, nothing's happened, like I'm not even moving. Then all of a sudden I get vertigo out of nowhere. I've never had vertigo in my entire life until all of this targeting stuff started in 2020. So I don't know. Yeah, yeah, it's I don't know how we can get humanity to chime in and try to see if we can break free from all this. I have no idea how. So all I know I can do is help people cope and try to find ways to ease their pains. Like I said, use healing frequencies. You can do radiation detox salt baths. You can do qigong. There's a number of different things that are fairly very very natural that you can help relieve yourself while you're going through this storm, because the sight of when it can end, I have no idea. But the least we could do is not give them the benefit of actually, you know, crawling into a ball and crying, and or basically like just like, you know, becoming a shell of ourselves. That's one thing I told myself I will not do. I will not become a shell of myself. I felt myself starting that at some point, but then I told myself, I was like, no, because that helps them even more. Like, I try to make it a thing to get out my house every day, for even if it's for just a few minutes, because the reason why is because if you stay in your home all day, especially if you live in an apartment building, you are allowing yourself to become extremely radiated by the electricity that's flowing through your walls, your appliances, and then whether if your neighbors are aiming special, like if your neighbors are aiming these radiation devices at you, you are making yourself an easier target. You're basically just giving into it. It's important that you get outside. You go and stand on some grass and with no shoes on, and you do some earth grounding. You go swim in the ocean if you can, because the ocean is natural salt water, and that natural salt water will basically help cleanse your body of the energy that they're flooding your nervous system and your entire body with. Every time I went to the beach, now that I think about it, every time I went to the beach and I went to go swim in the water, I did not feel much of any of the um, electronic harassment on my body at all. Like, at all. You know, I still heard the V2K. Yeah, the V2K was still there because, I'm not going to be deep underwater like that. So they're still going to have the near infrared light, basically connected to my pineal gland. And that's pretty much what it is until we can actually destroy what is encasing the globe in these digital frequencies, until we can figure out what is planting these, unknown carrier digital twin, cell towers that you can only see through augmented reality apps, because they're transmitting data. They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. You get the architecture of radio app and you look through that app. If you see an unknown carrier tower that's that's close in your vicinity, and you look around and you see a whole bunch more, I kid you not, those are what is giving these people even more access to your body, your devices, and everything that they need to be able to torment you, whether you're outside or inside. But when you're inside of a building, it's just much worse. When you go outside, it lightens up. Now, but of course, when you go outside, you're going to have to deal with, gaslighting and stuff. But that to me, that's the light stuff. To me, that's the light stuff, because I already expect people to be exactly who they are. Like, when I walk out my door, I'm still respectful to just about every single person I come across. Even if they seem like they trying to gaslight me in a sense, I'm still going to act respectful, and I'm still going to be nice and cordial with them. Why? Because there's always something that comes back to basically rectify what wrongdoings that someone else was trying to do to, the righteous or the innocent. If you learn to protect your mind from engaging in, this, the these basically, these, well, what they call them, like the flying monkeys, like in the Wizard of Oz, or these antagonists, rather, you learn to not give in to the gaslighting, and you can pretty much almost see a person who's ready to gaslight you, just like mirrored, like probably minutes or seconds before they even open their mouth to you, or before they even do anything. Because I'm at the point in my life where I could literally walk down the street and I'll see 10 people, and I can already figure out of these 10 people how many of them are probably a part of the whole secret society gang stalking thing, because they all have a certain body language to them. They have a body language to them. They have a I just got to look. I'm sitting down, and all of a sudden I just got like on the left side of my body, just like, I lost balance. I'm sitting down and I felt myself lose balance. So like I told you, wait, hold on. Yeah, so you can see like what I'm telling you about all those unknown carrier cell towers, and throw in with the combination, the chemtrail spraying. I mean, all we can do is just hold on, and we can just keep recording everything that we can. And I highly suggest people don't go after people unless you actually have physical evidence, because that's what law enforcement is going to tell you. They can't do anything unless you have like physical evidence, or you have proof that such and such or someone is doing this to you. And for the most part, you also got to remember that you also got to remember that you also got to remember that they they manipulate people into joining the police force, and then they actually have people working within the police force. So it's like, and then the sad part is, there are good cops who are good people even outside of their badge, in behind their badge and out and without their badge. There are good people doing, in that profession. But then when they see something wrong and they try to report it, they end up getting blackballed. Um, whistleblowers are all over the world, and they're working in all different, industries and sectors of the world and everything. But you know what? No one it always feels like whistleblowers don't get protected enough. Whistleblowers don't get protected enough, while everyone who's doing all the most shady, just like, you know, just monstrous things, all of these people are protected. They're all getting protected. But you know what, at the same time, you also remember, um our spiritual bodies have to go somewhere even after our physical bodies die. So it's like, if they don't get got now, trust and believe, they're not getting no eternal life. They're not getting no peace after they die. They are going to spend the rest of their eternity. Well, if they don't end up dying when it, if their spiritual body doesn't end up dying or being consumed by the beast for which they worship, then they'll basically spend the rest of their eternity with no peace. They'll spend the rest of their eternity probably facing worse pain than what we ever felt while we were alive. So it's like, you just keep that in mind, that like, always remember that they're attacking you because you chose to basically have your energy vibrate at a higher frequency than theirs. Why do you think they're using technology to try to bring you down? Why? Because they can't actually physically break you. So they have to use technology to try to break you. You're much stronger than you probably even truly realize. If anything, what we're coming into a world where, basically, just about anybody could get a gun. Just about anybody can get a gun. Anybody can learn, how to disarm something, or just about anybody can, basically, um just about anybody can miss when trying to shoot somebody. There's all different things that God can do to prevent you from actually, you know, being killed by the hands of your enemies, you know. And then at the same time, even if God allows your enemies to take your life will not go in, your death will not be in vain. Like, you will be taken care of, and your enemies will be destroyed in the same mentioning. I mean, think about it like this: like, if you were to be killed by your enemies, yeah, if you were to be killed by your enemies, think of it like this: God said that it's time for you to come home. There's nothing left for you to do in this world. You have done everything that God could have want from you, as in being a representation of Him. So your life must be, used in a sense to probably inspire someone. Because for whatever reason, I don't know, people normally don't truly get inspired by someone unless someone dies, so that's why I kind of like that. That's why I'm kind of like, I'm like, shoot, I'm not going to take my life. Why would I take my own life when there's hundreds of people, hundreds and thousands of people who are waiting and plotting on my death? They're waiting and plotting to try to see if they can set me up to go to prison for something I didn't do. You know, um so why would I even think along those lines? I would rather someone try to take my life with their own hands, so they can curse themselves and curse every generation that comes after them. Or even better, um I mean, Lord knows I don't wish death on nobody. I don't even wish this torment on anybody. But you also got to remember, the only reason a lot of them are doing what they're doing is because they don't want to be in our shoes, you know. And that's, I mean, to every person that has ever fought for human rights, civil rights, whether it was, LGBTQ rights, or, Native American rights, or just any type of rights, Bill of Rights, whatever. They all were willing to sacrifice their life so that other people in the future can be able to benefit from somewhat freedom that we have now. And you know what? If that's what it takes, because I mean, I don't have any children right now, but I feel bad for the women and the men who, have children and they're being tormented and stuff like that. I want them to know that they're not alone. That I want them to know that, there are people out here who are willing to speak up for you, even though if you're just trying to take care of your child, and I get it. So for those of us who don't have children, there are people and I'm getting chills as I say this. There are people out here who are willing to speak up on your behalf. I don't know exactly who I can talk to get some real change out of this, because I know that there was at least one or two senators who tried to pass a bill against this technology in the early 2000s. And I mean, somebody, I forgot his name, but I think he was either a senator or a congressman from Oregon. He saw this coming. He saw all this, I mean, well, the experimentation has been around for decades, but he saw this coming about, the use of secret weapons being, used against, citizens and everything. And quite honestly, I just reread a report or a journal about the Cold War experiments between 1944 and 1974. And you know what? Oh, America truly is Babylon. America is Rome. America is Babylon. And you know what? There is so much that's wrong with this world. And then the fact that there's not enough people who want to actually fight for everything that's right and good in this world, it's sad. Because if God was to ever decide to renege on his promise not to destroy humanity, God could have done that a long time ago. God could have done that a long time ago. But it is what it is. So I'm gonna end it here. My mom just called me and I ignored her phone call because I wanted to make sure I didn't lose my train of thought. But hey, as always, take life one breath, one thought, one step, one day at a time. Peace.